Hey everyone, it's D7 from G13 Airsoft, giving you guys another review in our Tactical Gear series. This time, the 100 Concepts HexCap, which is a type of flash cover for the Trijicon RMR. Now, throughout this review, I'm going to mainly focus on the HexCap. However, as a base of comparison, I'm also going to show a lot of the Trijicon Tenebraex anti-reflective device dual illuminator. Now, as you see in that title, it's only for the dual illumination version of the RMR, which is not what I use. And it should also be said that Trijicon hasn't made a cover for the other RMR models over several years that these products been out. So kind of reflective, kind of annoying, but also explains why someone like 100 Concepts would make a product for it. Again, it's not a one-for-one comparison on which one I would prefer over the other, because one just doesn't work with my optic, but it does show you what Trijicon, the makers of the RMR, had in mind versus what 100 Concepts did, and see where one company did better over the other. So with that said, here is the Trijicon's version. You can get it for around $44 off their website. Looking at the design, you can see it's mainly forward facing, with the attachment points to the rest of the optic being only the 4 small prongs that hook in at very small points on the optic. Now, the mesh lining on the front, very secure. Can't tell if it's metal or plastic, but it's very durable. You're not going to crush it with your finger. It's going to take a good amount of force to do anything to it. Notice the hex or the honeycomb shape in them are notably quite fine. That sometimes has advantage or disadvantage. Sometimes if you have a honeycomb series that's too fine, it starts to cover up the optic and brightness through it, which will definitely have an issue in low light conditions. However, you can get it to a nice perfect size to where it kind of just bleeds through and you don't really see it, especially if you have both eyes open, as you would often do while aiming with a non-magnified red dot. And this does a pretty good job. What you also notice is you can still impact the brightness buttons up and down on each side. However, it is being partially covered up by the cover. Now, serving its purpose as an actual mitigator of any flash or shine on the front of the optic if light was being pointed toward it, is fairly good. I mean, it does do what it was advertised in that regard. And for daytime use, looking down sights, you can very clearly see a red dot at the brightness setting I had. I think it's just 1 notch brighter than what it is when you first turn the optic on, and you can see it pretty well. Now, with that said, at nighttime with, say, a weapon light, it does start to bleed out the optic a little bit more. And I did have to turn the brightness up on the optic to fix that. If you didn't have the cover on it, I would have been able to see it much better with the brightness setting it was before. So that it is a knock on the Trijicon version. Okay, now that you got a basis for it, now let's actually look at the HexCap. First off, it's $35, so it's already cheaper. In terms of construction, it's a little more flexible by itself than the Trijicon version. However, once you put it on, that issue is mitigated. Also note the honeycombs on the front are much larger. Still small enough, however, to prevent large debris from hitting it, small bits and pieces that might be flying at you. And if you were to stick this on an airsoft gun with an airsoft optic, it would also be small enough to stop an airsoft BB. Once you put it on the optic, it's much easier to get to the brightness setting adjusters, so no problem there. I would say it still does a really good job at flash mitigation, which is one of the main purposes of this whole thing. Though with it being slightly bigger honeycombs, perhaps at really close distances, you can kind of see dead center of this picture here, just a little bit of a flare from the flash of the camera. But outside of that, it's still doing its job. Now, in daytime use, aiming down sights with it, it works almost exactly the same as the Trijicon version in terms of brightness settings, and being able to aim down sights and see what I'm looking at without any serious mitigation of my vision. Now, as for low light setting with a weapon light, it is much easier to see. As you can see here, I didn't have to adjust my brightness settings, and I can still see with the same setting I have for daytime at nighttime, or at least with low light for weapon light, and still be able to see what I'm aiming at. So in conclusions, do I like the 100 Concepts HexCap, at least for the RMR version? Yeah, absolutely. Does its job, fits very securely, much better than the option or single option Trijicon has that doesn't even work on my version of the RMR, as you can see here. So yeah, absolutely. It's cheaper than what Trijicon has. It actually works in terms of fitment on there, and it still competes in every other way. So yep, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you around. Bye.